That would be the ultimate goal, is like free Aira everywhere. And I like to joke that I have this cartoon of a spaceship, as it's flying by Earth, you see on their monitor, you have entered a free Aira access location.
Thank you so much, Jenine. I'm so glad that you came on today and you were so willing to jump on to this video. And today I really wanted to talk about what the future of Aira really is and what it can actually do for people, because I think that there's a bit of a misconception in the blindness community that Aira is really expensive and I don't want to pay for anything else. So I'm just going to move on and I'm not even going to consider or even think about it. And I think that Aira has so much to offer. So could you just share a little bit about what Aira can do for somebody, even
Sure.
whether they pay or they don't pay? Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, for anyone who doesn't know, Aira is a visual interpreting service, and we have paid professional visual interpreters. We call them agents, and they're on the other end of the phone, using the back-facing camera of your smartphone, using your web camera now, and using the blind shell smartphone and the Envision glasses. So we're in a bunch of places now, and we have two different levels. We have our paid customers, our paid plans, and our guest plan. So you can use Aira as a guest. You get one free phone call every 48 hours, but you can also use any of our free access offers. And so these are places where companies pay for your Aira service. So they sponsor your Aira service, like airports, Target stores, Starbucks. Let's see, there is an offer for Vispero if your JAWS has suddenly stopped working, or your Zoom text or whatever. I'm sorry, that should be Magic, I think. You can use any of those as either a guest or a paid subscriber to Aira. Now, our prices will be going up as of, they've already gone up at the time that this is airing. And luckily, we are allowing anyone who has been on a plan from 2022 to keep that plan through 2023. And a lot of folks are worried already about 2024. I have no idea what's going to happen then. We don't know what the state of anything will be in. But one of the things that we're working really hard to do in 2023 is find ways that your Aira usage can be sponsored, so that we don't have to charge you as the subscriber outrageous fees. And it's kind of like running a bus company. Regular bus riders definitely don't make enough money for the bus company to actually run it. So they survive on all kinds of outside things, from advertising to grants and all that kind of thing. Well, that's similar to what Aira wants to do, except we want to find companies, corporations, city government, state government, national government to actually pay for our service for you, so that you can use it whenever and wherever you want. And so that's the future of what we're looking at in terms of using Aira. When can people use it? Well, right now we realize everybody's budget is tight. And so one thing that we're recommending is look for the everyday activities, the things that don't require security, privacy, things like that. Go ahead and use something like Be My Eyes. It's a great app. There are volunteers who are very skillful. But if you have something like a bank statement or hospital records or something like that that you need read, or you're traveling and you need some navigation help, that's when you can call in Aira. And that's where we really can help you in a very secure way that Be My Eyes doesn't have. Now, they do also have the expert help, so specialized help, I think they call it. And that's another great feature that you can use with that app. And we're all friends, we're all in the same industry, basically. And so we're trying to make sure that you can get the access that you need. And Aira is here to do things like work in your employment site or your college and university. So those are some of the places. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, so I heard in another, I think, podcast, you actually have a state, is that correct, that
Yes.
sponsors Ira Minutes?
Yes, we have a couple of them actually.
Oh, a
Um,
couple.
yeah, State of Connecticut, first of all,
Mhm.
they have a pilot project going with funding from their highway department. So anybody in the state of Connecticut, any Connecticut citizen or person who's even living there temporarily, can use IRA for quote unquote essential tasks. Now, just about everything is an essential task. And these are as defined by, I believe it's FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, that defines these tasks. And that was all as a result of COVID. But
Mm.
any transportation, including the airport in Connecticut, all of the trains, all of the buses, all of the paratransit, all of the rideshare, you can use IRA to access there. Now, the whole state that we have is Alabama. And, Alabama, they're really proud of this because
Mm.
they are offering IRA unlimited for
Oh,
people.
wow.
Yeah.
Unlimited.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty amazing. All you have to do is register with the Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind. And you don't have to have an open case. You don't have to do anything like that. There's a registration process that you go through. And then they will sign you up and get you ready for your IRA usage. And that's for anything you want. And we're going to see, at the end of a year how that works for them. I'm sure they'll probably continue it. It's a fairly small population, but look, if they can do it, you know, anybody can. And we also have the state of Texas. If you are a
Mm.
client of the Texas Workforce Commission and you have a case or a work goal that meets their criteria, you can also get IRA through them. And that would be getting ready for employment or possibly changing careers, moving up in your career, anything to do with employment, they will fund IRA for you if you meet their criteria. So if you're in Texas, talk to your counselor at TWC and make sure we're doing some work in Texas to let people be sure that your counselors know about the program because not all of them do. So
Mm.
we're doing a little work on that. But if your counselor doesn't know, give us a call and we'll reach out to them for you.
That really sounds amazing. Do you see a future where Ira is just going to be free for anybody who's blind or visually impaired that, needs some type of visual help?
We hope so. I mean, that would be the ultimate goal is like free IRA everywhere. And I like to joke that I have this cartoon of a spaceship, as it's flying by Earth, you see on their monitor, you have entered a free IRA access location. So yeah, that is actually our goal. And in some countries, the UK, Australia was the one to kick it off. They have
Mm.
something called National Disability Insurance Scheme,
Oh.
NDIS, and this is money that they can access to help with disability costs, whether it's equipment, whether it's IRA, whether it's whatever meets their criteria. But that's something that they have in Australia. I believe they have it in New Zealand too. The UK has a similar type of service where they are, allowing you to turn in expenses and have them reimbursed for various disability related things. What we would love here in the United States is to have IRA funded just as the 711 service for telecommunications. That particular service, we would love to have IRA funded that way. And that would mean that a tiny bit of everybody's phone bill in the US, so imagine, literally 300 million people are chipping in to give you free IRA. And, for the fairly small percentage of blind people, um, that would be pretty amazing, actually.
That really would. I know how helpful it can really be. Now, I know you've touched on this in a previous question, but what are some really big differences, more than what you've mentioned before, between Ira and something like Be My Eyes? I mean, why should
Mhm.
somebody use Ira over Be My Eyes, maybe even past the security?
Mhm. Well, our agents have access to a couple of really big things that make us different. First of all, if you have your location services turned on, which we encourage you to do when you're using Aira, they have access to your GPS position, so they can tell where you are in space. Now, if you're using them with the Envision glasses, that's not quite working yet, but we're getting there. But they can actually tell where you are in space if you use the phone app. So you can call us on the phone app first, then get on your glasses. But what that does is that enables our agent not only to see where you are, but to help you plan a route, to monitor you as you're going along that route. So they can use the camera to look, but they can also use Google Maps in that GPS position. They also can take pictures for you. Now, we can't take videos yet. That's something that
Hmm.
Apple doesn't quite allow, and I don't know if Android does either, but we can take pictures. I love taking pictures with Ira because they can help you frame the shot, and they can make sure everybody's, looking at the camera and, or that you're getting a really interesting picture. But then they title the picture and they write a description for the picture, and you can have that emailed to you, or you can have that sent to you in the Ira app, or both, actually. And I recommend both because you never know. Um, but you can then take those pictures, share them on social media, put them in your camera roll, and you're always going to know what that picture is. So, those are two of the big things. But some of the other things our agents can do, they can pull up Google. They have some special search tools, and these guys are like Google ninjas. I mean, they can find just about anything. They can play a YouTube video on their end and describe it to you. For example, if you're trying to fix something, I end up fixing like small appliances and yard
Mm.
equipment and things like that in our
Yeah,
house because I like to do that stuff.
YouTube
And
is the place to go.
mhm, exactly, and they'll just pull up the YouTube video, "Oh, okay, I see it here in a video, and I see that it goes like," and they'll walk me through putting something together, fixing something, whatever, and, so that is another way that we are a little bit different from Be My Eyes.
Personally, I love the Aira access points. I've been able to use it at places like Starbucks, and also I would love to have it, I would love more hospitals to
Yes,
have this
yes.
available, because that's really one huge place. I
Oh, yeah.
know that they're available in a lot of universities and airports. That's another place where it's really
Mhm.
great.
Oh, I love Ira in the airport. And we do have one hospital
Mm.
complex, and I'm hoping that we get more as time goes on here, but it is the Robert Wood Johnson Medical Complex in New Jersey, I believe.
Hmm.
And their whole facility is an Ira access location. And they also were looking at a program to provide iPads that people could use to do different things with. And they were, of course, accessible. They enabled voiceover, and they would show them how to contact Ira to get help moving around the hospital.
Oh, that's awesome. I feel like everybody needs help moving around the hospital, though.
Oh,
Like, not
goodness,
just people who are blind,
yes.
but it's like, where do we go? Oh my
Mhm.
goodness.
Well, yeah, our only issue with hospitals is some of the equipment, like if you're going near the X-ray area or the MRI area, it's gonna kill your Ira reception.
Yes, yes. They should just have free internet, you know?
Yes, yes, more and more places do, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Mhm. And then it's like when you do go into a place, whether it's a hospital or a restaurant or anything that does not have, it's like, why don't you have free internet? It's like
Yes,
now we expect
yes,
it.
yes, exactly.
This year, especially from CES, there's been a whole huge buzz about AI, and
Mhm.
all this new technology like biped, and there's some new like smart glasses coming out, and one of the themes is kind of don't run into things, blind people, because
Yes.
they keep coming out with all these products that
Oh
help
my.
people for obstacle detection. There's so much AI, and there's things also like seeing AI and Google Lookout and so much of that. Do you feel that Ira one day could be replaced by AI?
Um, Maybe, but I don't think so because I think still in the end, when you're not quite sure if the AI got it correct, like, oh, let's say your credit card number or something like that, you're going to want to talk to a person. Or when you're traveling through, a space, let's say an airport, and it might be mapped with whatever software, and you might be doing pretty well, but then you run into something strange and it just isn't making sense to you, and you want to talk to a person to try to get somebody there with you to conquer this obstacle. I think people are always going to want to talk to people over AI. AI can do a lot, and it does a lot on our back end for things like scheduling and statistics, things like that. But I think on the front end, yeah, it's going to be great for things like object recognition and reading and some of the indoor navigation, maybe. But until we get that to a really, really secure point that we all trust it, I think you're still going to always want a human.
Yes, especially if, I mean, it's the blind community. We've tried dictation, right? And that's
Yep. Oh boy.
a lot of has a lot of AI
Yeah.
elements to it.
Let's talk
And
about some epic fails there.
I mean, right now, when you point seeing AI or Google look out to things, it's very, very basic, right? And I think
Mhm.
I agree with you. It's going to take a really long time before the technology goes so far that you can really trust it, if it ever gets to that point, right?
Mhm.
It always feels a lot better if it is an actual person,
Yeah.
to have that type
Well, you
of
can have a
confidence.
continuing conversation with someone,
Yeah.
progressing the tasks that you're doing from this task to this task, or just, guiding you. I find it really, I don't know that I would have the patience to use AI to go shopping, for example. And I've got, the Great Wall of Soup at the grocery store. And just trying to find, oh my gosh, I want a can of, Southwest chicken noodle soup, and I'm gonna have to go through every single can on this shelf and hope that I find the one that is what I'm looking for. And, the Ira agent can quickly just take a picture, they can look at it, they can find the general area, and then you can get down to the one you need. And, that is invaluable to me over AI.
Yeah, I can understand. It can be a lot faster. I do want to shift back a little bit. There's been a lot of talk with the price increases and more transparency, I suppose, with business pricing. There's been a question that I've seen pop up a lot, which is, do businesses really pay for IRA? And will they be willing to pay for IRA if it's this much or however much that it has
Mhm.
increased to?
You might be surprised. Yes, the answer is yes. And the other answer is they already are. Um, the pricing that we have chosen here to display is very similar to pricing for, let's say, a sign language interpreter for an event. If you're looking at the price per minute, closed captioning, specialized closed captioning live for an event, things like that. The pricing is very similar, and that's kind of what we modeled it on, looking at our costs. And it turns out that, yeah, they really do match.
Mm.
And so, yes, the interesting thing, though, is, are people ready to demand access to visual information the way that deaf people demand access to sign language? And
Mhm.
I hope that we are, and I think we're getting there because now we're starting to demand audio description. In the past, it was like, "Oh, it's nice if we get it," "Oh,
Mhm.
they have it, that's great." Now we are used to having it, and we want it there, and we're gonna complain if it's not there. And I say do the same thing if you can't get a visual interpreter to be part of the event, be part of your access to something.
I think part of that is people don't really appreciate how great something can be until they have more of it. And I think
Mhm.
as IRA grows and expands and gets more businesses or governments or organizations
Mhm.
on board, the more people will be able to use it and the more people will be able to appreciate it. And then when they don't have it, they're going to
Right,
speak out more. That's
right. And I think one of the places where people can really experience this is museums. Um,
Yes.
and a number of states like Utah, Pennsylvania, the Smithsonian, all of the Smithsonian properties in Washington, D.C. are IRA access locations. So you can visit any of
Awesome.
those. And then there are other Smithsonian properties around the country that are part of this, I do believe. There's a hierarchy of Smithsonian things where it stops, but most of the larger museums are access locations. And that includes their online content.
Mm,
Shed Aquarium is another great one. How many people think about, "Ugh, I'm blind, great. What am I going to
mhm.
get out of an aquarium?" But
Yeah.
you go there with an agent, and you're pretty soon you're watching the fish, and because you finally have access to all these things, and
Yeah.
you get to decide when you come and go from different things.
Mhm.
And the same for art exhibits and things like that. And that's a way to really experience IRA and find out what you're missing and the level of control you can have over the information that you get. You can tell the agent, "Okay, I need to know more," or, "Okay, I don't need that much direction, thanks." And I think that probably the biggest plus with IRA or any service that you control is that you're in charge of where you go and what you do. And people don't realize how powerful that is until you do it. And you think, well, you know, everybody does that, don't they? Well, yeah, they do. But how many times as a blind person have you felt like a piece of luggage? you
Oh
know,
my goodness.
especially literally in the airport. You're taken from one place to another. They sit you down. Now, don't move. And unless you're super adventurous, you really don't find out about much else around you. And so that's, I think, the biggest plus with any visual interpreting service is that you can actually determine, okay, I'm going to go to this place now, and I'm just going to
Mhm.
walk around and I'm going to find out what I can find out. And get the information that I need. Once you do it, if you haven't used Ira, once you do it, you're hooked.
Yeah, I can tell you that for me, like I was at the museum, at a children's museum, a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and it was really frustrating because even though I have some usable vision
mhm,
and I can use a magnifier, I didn't know where I was going. So I have to follow, like, even though
mhm.
I'm not necessarily that piece of luggage, I still have to trail after whoever can see.
Yeah.
And, I can't like just stay where I want to go or go where I want to
Mhm,
go. It's even worse if the less vision you have.
mhm.
And there's just so much visual information everywhere
Yes, and
that
oh, I'm
you
sure a
don't
children's
have
museum
access
is
to.
very loud, very lots of things going on, and it can
Mhm.
be exhausting. I didn't realize how exhausted I got during travel, and I use a guide dog, but I had to use a cane for a couple years while I was between dogs and the
Mhm.
pandemic hit. And I didn't realize how tiring it can be, just to get from one place to another with all the stimuli out there in public places. And it's just really
Mhm.
tiring. And then, I go to the mall with my dog and I'm zipping around, but that's great. But then I'm looking for a specific place and I'm tired again.
Yeah.
So, Ira really helps with that kind of stress, and especially if you're anxious about travel too, which a lot of people
Mm.
are, and that's okay. I mean, believe me, I completely understand that one.
Yeah, and another thing too is just traveling in and of itself, there's so many people that I've heard saying, "I don't wanna travel because what am I going to do
Mhm.
anyway? I'm not gonna see anything. I'm not gonna know
Yeah.
what's going on." And
Mhm.
so I feel like, visual interpretation or IRA is something that people could really benefit from. And, I
Mhm.
have a mom who has been my visual interpreter
Mhm.
since I was born, but she has to be a visual interpreter for one, two, three, four, like four people in my family are
Oh,
blind. And
wow.
everybody's asking her
Uh-huh.
questions. And my brother
Yep.
is also deaf. So she's trying to
Ah.
interpret at the same time. And
Mhm.
so, like,
Wow.
my mom's amazing, but
Yeah. Yep,
you
my
can't.
mom did that when I was growing up for my 2 sisters and I,
Mhm.
and, I just remember thinking when I first started to use Ira, "Oh my gosh, this is like having mom back." And, she would have been a great IRA agent too. That kind of freedom and autonomy is really huge. And then you take it into the workforce, and we have Job Seeker Promo, which is something that we sponsor. So you can get up to 30 minutes a day of help with job seeking tasks, looking at job boards, posting your resume, writing your resume, and a number of other things there. But you can use Ira in your workplace so that you can actually get something done. You don't have to wait around for, somebody in the office to be free to help you, or, oh, well, we'll get somebody to help you if you want to use the new coffee machine that's got all the touch screens on it. You just let us know when you want XYZ, and then you stand down there and wait for half an hour while somebody, is free to come and help you. And you don't have to do that with Ira, you know until they get things that are completely accessible, which one day we'll get there, um, but you always have that backup.
So, what do you see the future of Ira being?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, in
Yeah, it's a big
terms,
question.
yeah, it is a big question. I would love to see us as ubiquitous as sign language interpreters and visual relay services, which are kind of a new thing. It's sort of the deaf equivalent of Ira, I guess, in a way. But I would love to see us that ubiquitous, and just that, hey, we are around. If you want to use us, here we are. But what I would love to see is employers giving people that tool that they can use to get whatever they need done. Whether it's, we had a webinar last fall with a bunch of content creators, and they're talking about how they're using agents to help them design things. They know what they want it to look like, and then they can kind of drive the agent around the program that they use to make it look that way. And that's pretty amazing. That opens up jobs for people that you know nobody thought of before. And then we look at places like Amazon and Google and Microsoft, where we're employing blind people to do things that they've never done before.
Is Ira afraid of competition that might arise?
Bring it on, because what's difficult right now for us when we advocate, because we are, the quote unquote only service of our size, really. The businesses, the government says, yeah, you're just drumming up business for yourself. And we're not. We're advocating for everybody to get a piece of the pie. And we like the competition. Believe me, it makes us better. It makes us try harder. It makes us do better, when we have something to compete against. So yeah, come on in. And there are niches in this market where somebody could get into things that we can't do, like the specialized help, like say visual interpreters who know about music, who know about foreign languages, who know about very specific kinds of tasks that may be way over and above what we can help with at this point.
Now, I've heard a few ideas kicked around, so
Hmm.
I do want to ask you one more thing. Would
Hmm.
Ira ever consider expanding their service for people who are not just blind or visually impaired?
Absolutely. In fact, we already do.
Oh, is
And
that
this
true?
one, I was really surprised. Once again, things the pandemic teaches you. When we were all wearing masks, a lot of people who are deaf or hard of hearing, and especially hard of hearing, had a terrible time with communicating. And some people used Ira to actually, okay, can the agent listen to what's being said and then tell me or text me what that person is saying to me with the
Hmm.
mask, or exactly what's happening here, because I'm not able to figure out what they want from me. We have had people in the workplace who have injuries or disabilities where they can't type or they can't move a mouse. So they will log into Ira, and they will kind of, again, drive the agent around the screen and say, okay, I would like you to do this. I would like you to do this. And it's not because the other access technology like dictation and everything doesn't work. It's just it may not be efficient for them. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, we're happy to have, that's why we don't have any requirements for the service, any disability verification or anything like that, because if you need it, use it.
Do you see a space where Ira could actually serve anybody, even if they don't
Mhm.
have a disability?
Sure, absolutely. You need some help. My sister-in-law has a terrible sense of direction. And, there have been times when I've said, "Do you want me to get an agent on the phone so we can figure out where we are?" Because the GPS is not making sense to her. And we actually did it once and it worked. But
Wow.
certainly, and in fact, if you look at this for somebody who wants to age in place, they want to stay in their home and they're not going to admit that they're having some physical issues that would,
Mhm.
in anybody else, you might be legally blind, you might even be totally blind, but they're not going to admit that they're having that issue. Ira is a great solution for them to just get that little bit of help very discreetly, very privately, and they don't have to tell anybody.
Those are some really great reasons, I think, for Ira, and I'm really excited for the future. I am rooting for that future where I can go travel anywhere in the world and go and use Ira wherever as a visual interpreting
Mhm.
service, especially to that tour in Europe that I've always wanted to do.
Oh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Well, I'm planning a big Hawaiian vacation reunion for the family this fall, and I'm thinking, "Oh, it's gonna be so great. We can use Ira, and we can do this and this and this," and, but most of my family is visually impaired, so it's gonna
Mm,
be it's gonna
yeah,
be quite a
same
crowd,
here.
and, but it'll be fun, and we'll be able to do it because we'll have that resource. And I did wanna speak, Carrie, to one thing
Oh,
that
sure.
there are still people out there who say, if you use Ira too much, you're gonna lose your blindness skills, and this is terrible, and you really shouldn't rely on it that much. And I we have seen just the opposite with people over the years. Some of them start and there are going to be people who are going to be overly dependent on whatever, they'd be dependent on a family member if it
Mm,
wasn't for Ira. But I think what ends up happening is people get the confidence, say, to travel, and they'll be using the agent for a route, all the time for a few months, but then they get that confidence in their travel skills and pretty soon they're only calling up the agent when they have to cross the parking lot.
mm,
And so that's a big thing to look at when you're thinking about how people use all of the tools that they have. And sometimes it's just faster to pull up Seeing AI, and then after you've spent 20 minutes trying to read something, then you then you call Ira. Like nobody does that, right?
yeah, I mean, I've totally never,
All the
ever
time.
looked for anything on the floor that I've dropped and tried to
Uh-huh.
use all sorts of things and finally caved.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much, Janine, for again being willing to come on here and just talk to me about the future of Ira and visual interpreting and just the future.
Absolutely, and we hope you're gonna get excited about our new app. We've got our webinar coming up on the 15th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can go to our YouTube live channel, or we're gonna give you the Zoom link also for the show notes. Please come because we have some big announcements. Let's just think about those
Ooh.
add-on minutes. There's a teaser right there, add-on minutes. But also, we're going to get a preview of our new update for the app, the big app update. So, one code base to rule them all. Android and iOS are finally going to look alike. They're going to look like our desktop app. So, when we make a change, it changes across the board. It's going to be really good. I think you're going to like it.
That's amazing. Well, I'm really excited to tune into that. It'll be tomorrow once this is
Yeah,
uploaded. So thanks again. All of those links that Janine mentioned will be in the description. Thank you again, Janine. This has been such a
absolutely.
pleasure. And thank you, everybody. Make sure you try out Ira. Check out all
Yeah.
their Ira access points. Just try it out and see what Ira can do for you. And as Janine mentioned, let's try to advocate some more for Ira, not just Ira though, but visual interpretation in general.
Mhm. You
All right.
got it.
Thanks,
Well,
everybody,
you.
and we'll
Thank
see you in the
you.
next one.
Bye bye.